Today I will show you how to add classical jean styling elements to a jean pattern. You can do this on the block as well, but I will be working with a pattern, and actually here I have written that this is jean block front pattern, this is jean back pattern. The reason for the difference is that this particular one has seam allowances already added. You can see that I have notches. Everywhere I have seam allowance, I chose to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance everywhere. When you start adding classical jean elements to the pattern, you need to decide how high the jean is going to sit in relationship to the waist. So this particular pattern sits right at my natural waist at the front and the back, and it is possible to design a high-waisted jean sitting right at the anatomical waist. There is such a thing that's called a mid-rise jean, and the mid-rise jean is located about 1 inch below the anatomical waist. So I would measure 1 inch at the center front and 1 inch throughout the length of the width of the waist seam, all the way to the side seam. We'll do the same on the front, and this is actually the pattern that I prefer for my own body type, and I will show you how to do that. So 1 inch down from the anatomical waist everywhere would constitute a mid-rise jean. There is also an ultra low rise jean, and I will show you how to style that. That one sits a little bit lower at the front and a little bit higher at center back, so it's a little bit more angled, and I will cover that later. But I want to start with making my particular jean pattern, styling with a mid-rise jean. So I'm going to use a red marker, and with a ruler, I'm going to start measuring 1 inch down from the waist. So here I am at the center back. I'm making a few markings along the waistline, all the way through the dart, and I will end marking the same thing at my side seam. And now I will use a French curve to complete this, but I want to start, of course, with a 90-degree angle at center back and a 90-degree angle at the side seam, and the rest of it I will connect using a French curve like this. Okay, so I will do the same on the front. I am now at center front, measuring 1 inch down everywhere, including where the dart is. Okay, like this. And using my ruler, I'm going to give myself a start with 90-degree angle at the front and 90-degree angle at the side seam, and complete the pattern with a French ruler. With a French curve, I should say. Okay, so I am not going to cut this now because I'm going to use this line to design pockets, patch pockets for the back and a yoke for the back. And I will use this line to design slash pockets and fly front for the front. Once I have traced the top of my waistline, I need to decide how deep or how high the waistband is going to be. The classical waistband height for a mid-rise jean is 1.5 inches. So from the line that I marked in red, because this, in the mid-rise jean, this does not exist. I would cut it off or cross it out, except that I want to show you how to style a high-rise jean. So I'm going to leave it here, but from the red line, which is the top of my waistband, I'm going to measure down 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches everywhere, and this is going to be the height of my future waistband for the jean. 1.5 inches everywhere on the back. And I will measure 1.5 inches everywhere on the front. Remember, this is from the red line that marks the top of my new waistband for the mid-rise jean. All through the dart, from center front to side seam on the front. And I'm going to start drafting it. So I think here it's not quite at 1.5 inches. Yes, needs to be lower. So I'm going to give myself a start with 90-degree angle at center front and 90-degree angle at the back. And I will do the same. Sorry, not at the back, at the side seam. And here I will do the same on the back, like this. 90-degree angles at side seams and centers. And the rest will be connected with a French curve. Here I'm fortunate that it just fits the flattest side of the curve. And I will do the same on the front. If your waistline is a little bit curvier than this, you may have to do this in several adjustments of the French curve. So I now have the top of my waistband and the bottom of my waistband. So the bottom, the second line closer to the crotch line, is actually going to be cut off, and this will become a seam that connects the pants with the waistband. I have my waistband drafted in, and I'm going to work on the back to design a classical V style back yoke on the jeans. So the back yoke measures 3 inches down from the bottom of the waistband. So this is the bottom of my waistband in red. I'm going to measure 3 inches down for the depth of the waistband at the back. And I am also at the bottom of my waistband. And on the side seam, it's 1 inch down. So the yoke is a triangle, and it can be a straight line. I'm just going to connect that 1 inch mark with a 3 inch mark. And I'm just going to mark here that this is 1 inch at side seam and 3 inches at center back. Now that I have my yoke marked, I'm going to use the same red marker and design a back patch pocket. It goes in the center of the line that I've drawn for the bottom of the yoke. So I'm going to measure it and mark the center. Mine is 10.5 inches, so it's going to be, the center is for me at 5.25. This is my center, and the back pocket is 6 inches. The back pocket is 6 inches across at the top and 5 inches across at the bottom. But it doesn't sit parallel to the yoke. It actually sits on the side that's closer to the center back. It sits at 1 inch below. So since it's 6 inches in total in width, I'm putting my ruler at 3 inches at the mark for the center, where the center of the pocket is. And I'm just going to make a mark on the yoke. This is 3 inches towards the center. And I will measure 1 inch down. This is the marking for my future pocket. And 3 inches on the other side towards the side seam. And here is 1.25 inch below. So it's slightly not parallel. And I am going to draw. So my line is 6 inches in total. This is the top of my back patch pocket, okay? So I have the center of my pocket, and I'm going to do, I'm going to drop down a broken line, which is going to be 6 inches long. So this is going to be 6 inches. This is 6 inches. So this is my helpful line that will, this just tells me where the center of my pocket is. Now I am at the bottom of this broken line, and I will measure up 3/4 inch. So this is my 3/4 inch mark. And at this mark, my pocket is narrower. So the pocket is 6 inches at the top, and it's going to be 5 inches at the bottom. And where I marked 3/4 inch up from that 6 inch depth of the pocket line, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches on this side, and 2.5 inches on the other. And now I'm going to join these 2.5 inch marks to the left and right of the center at the 3/4 mark up from the bottom. I'm going to join them with the bottom like this, because as you know, a classic patch pocket on the jeans is not a rectangle or a square. It has this nice little dip in the center. And now I'm ready to connect the pocket with the top. Looks like this. If you can't see everything, don't worry, there will be detailed photos of this at the end of the video. So the pocket is actually now ready. Once you have this basic shape and you know exactly where you would place it, so when you are making a pattern for this, make sure that the foundation of the jean has placement marks so that you don't have to go back and measure everything again. So all you have to do is decide what the seam allowances will be, and of course jean pockets at the back usually have some kind of a stitching decoration. You decide. It's completely up to you how you want to design it. I am now going to show you how to design the fly front and the slash pocket for the front of the pants. To design a fly front, I'm going to add an additional piece of paper on top of my front, and I'm going to tape it to the board so that it doesn't move. Tape it here like this and like this, and I'm going to use the same piece of paper to design a slash pocket for the front. So I'm just going to extend this paper bowl to the side seam, and that will make sure that the paper does not move. So the fly front is usually designed on the center front, and it's the same, it's not a separate piece of fabric, because if you're making jeans out of any kind of a denim type fabric, it will make a very bulky seam. So it's a fold under fly front, and we're going to start designing it at the bottom red line, because this is going to be the end of your of the body of the jean, and this is where the waistband starts. So a fly front is 1.5 inches wide, 1.5 inches. So I'm measuring 1.5 inches to the right of my center front. And where does it end? It depends. I usually end mine just before the crotch curve starts. Do you see how this from the place where the waistband is going to be sewn in down to the hip line, which I have marked here? This is my hip line. I have a mostly straight piece of pattern, but here just above where it hits the hip is where my line starts to curve to go into the crotch extension. So I think for me, I'm going to measure maybe 3/4 of an inch. So you would need to look at your pattern and find out where your crotch curve starts and be a little bit 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch above it. So this is going to be my fly front, and 1.5 inches. I'm just going to use my ruler as a 90 degree. It's at 90 degrees here, and it ends where I marked it. And I'm just going to end it like this, but of course you can round it, you can do anything you want, and this is going to be my fold line. So at this line, I'm going to say fold right away. At this line, I'm going to fold it under when it's actually being constructed. Some fly front have this edge is rounded. You don't have to round it, but it is a traditional styling to do. So I will show you, I will use my French curve, and I will show you how to round. I'm looking for a very small curved area. There it is on my French curve. And so you can round at the bottom like this, but if you choose to leave it as an angle, it is actually not wrong. I don't see why you couldn't do that. So my fly front is now designed. There's also a piece that is a separate piece of pattern, and it's called a fly shield. So a fly shield is an extra piece of fabric that is sewn between the body and the zipper. So jeans often have metal zippers, and it makes it very uncomfortable when it touches the body. And so a fly shield actually protects the wearer from touching the metal zipper. So the fly shield is 2.5 inches wide, and I will design it right here. So my ruler is two inches, so I need 2.5 inches wide. There it is, 2.5 inches. And it's the same length as the fly front. I will measure mine. Mine is 2.25 inches. So 2.25 inches. I'm going to measure it here. Nope, 2.25 right here. And now I'm going to create my little tiny fly shield. And it's small because this is made for a mid-rise jean. Of course, the higher your jean, the longer the fly front is going to be. And I'm going to mark right away at 1.25 inch because this makes it the center of the fly shield. Okay, so in total, this is 2.5 inches. This is going to be fold line. Okay, and if you're working with a not a very thick fabric such as denim, you can actually interface this and give a little bit of stiffness to the front of the pant. I have the fly front and the fly shield design. Now I'm going to work on the side seam because I want to design my pocket. So this is a curved slash pocket, so I will design it starting with the back pocket. As you know, the side seam of the jean is completed with the back of a slash pocket. So this is what I'm going to design first. The slash pocket for the jean is usually 7 inches deep from where the waistband starts. So the waistband sits on top of the slash pocket. So I will measure down 7 inches. Okay, so this is 7 inches down. And it's 5 inches towards the center front of the jean. Of course, if you find that you are a smaller, thinner kind of a person, then by all means, make it smaller. Design it to fit your body. So for now, I'm just following the classic outlines. I am an average size person, so I am going to keep it like this. So this is the side seam that matches the side seam of my jean, and I am just outlining what I have here for my jean. This is the outer edge. Here at the edge, that's 5 inches, so this is 5 inches. And I am going to drop down a line at 90 degrees to the waist, and then I'm going to round it. This is also part of the classical styling. I just want to move my board a little bit because my ruler won't go as high as I need to. Okay, so I am going to just round the edge of it like this and connect it with the side seam like this. So it's 7 inches high, 5 inches wide. This is my back pocket. So on top of the back pocket, in a different color marker, I'm going to design the front. So this is the back pouch. The front pouch is designed according to the following guidelines. It is 4 inches in width. So I'm going to mark 4 inches right here. Okay, and it goes down 2 3/4 inches from the top. So from the top, 2 3/4 inches, it's right here. What is the shape of this curve? It's completely up to you. You decide sort of, I'm going to move my board a little bit more. You decide where is the line that you like. Okay, I think I like it like this. And I'm going to join it. If I get up, if I just ended up with an angle, I'm just going to blend it a little bit so it looks a little nicer. There. So the green line is actually my opening where my hand is going to go in. Okay. And now you have the red is the back pouch. The back pouch has to be cut out, either all of it in denim, the same fabric as the pant, Or you can design a facing in denim or the fabric for the pants, and the bottom of it can be designed in a finer fabric. There's pocketing, there is muslin, you can use broadcloth, you can use anything that will make a non-bulky pocket. Okay, now some people like this little, it's called an item pocket. It's a little tiny pocket that sits on the back pouch. I usually don't use it for anything. It's called an item pocket, a key pocket, a change pocket, but I will show you how to design it. So the placement of the little coin pocket, I think I'm going to use blue marker so that it's a little bit different. So you measure 1 inch from the side seam and 1 inch down from the top. Okay, so this is 1 edge of the coin pocket, and the size of the coin pocket is 2 3/4 inch wide. So 2 3/4 inch wide, like this. And the length of it, I don't think it even matters. You can drop it almost the length of the back pouch. So I'm going to make mine, let's make mine 5 inches. You can make it shorter, of course, whatever you'd like to do. It's a personal preference. So if I had a coin pocket, mine would be here. So these would be the placement lines that I would put on my back pouch. Okay, so now we designed 3 things. The red is the back pouch. The green is the beginning of the front pouch, and I will outline the rest of it following exact shape, as you know, following exact shape of the back pouch, because they match except at the line where you put your hand in. And I will use the green to cut away a part of my pant front. So here the green and the red match, they follow the same line. And I think I will need to redraw the red on the other side because you can't see it anymore. The red does not disappear. The red is the shape of the back pouch. And this is the line that we're going to cut away from the actual body of the jean. And I will trace it, and I will show you how to trace it and how to cut it. So basically, this is the classical styling of a jean. We have the back, which is styled with a V yoke. It has a curved waistband, which is mid-rise. We have a patch pocket for the back. I have a fly front, which will fold under the center front of the jean. I have a fly shield, which will be sewn behind the zipper to protect the body of a person who will wear these jeans from the metal zipper. And I have designed a classical front pocket, which is a slash style pocket. The red is the back pouch. The blue is the little item purse, a coin purse as it's frequently called, and a key purse. And the green is the front, which will be behind the pant. This is the cutaway line, which I will show you how to cut from the pant. These are my various pattern pieces for the jean, and I took detailed photographs. They will be at the end of the video, so you can take a look at all the measurements. I'm going to start cutting this pattern apart because I need to complete the waistband. So I'm going to start with the back. I will take these little pieces for now and put them with the front because I'm going to start working on the back. So as you remember, I lowered my waistband to be at mid-rise level. So I'm going to cut off the top part. What I'm going to cut is the top red line right here. I'm going to do the same for the front, but for now I want to finish the back. So I'm cutting the top off completely because the top part now is not needed. So now I'm going to cut along the bottom red line to separate my waistband from the yoke. So this is my back waistband, and right away I'm going to say here CB for center back, and this is my grain line. Okay, I will draw with a ruler a grain line parallel to my center. This is my grain line, and this is the side seam, so I'm going to say SS so it's not so confusing. Now I'm not done with this. Do you see? I have a dart. I can't leave it like this. I'm going to cut along one of the dart legs and tape it shut, because remember, this is a waistband, and a waistband does not have darts. So I'm cutting, it doesn't matter which one, just along one of the legs of the dart, and now I'm going to tape it together. I'm closing the dart, and I will tape it close like this. Okay, so now my waistband looks like this. Do you see what you can see at the back? This is the dart that is now closed. Do you see this excess of paper? This is the closed dart, and my waistband became curved. Do you see that? I now created a shaped waistband. Of course, I have an angle here, which I am going to, I need to add seam allowance to that, because if you remember, the pattern has seam allowances in the center back and on the side seam, but I will need to add seam allowance to the top of the waistband and the bottom of the waistband. And when I do that, I'm going to blend all the sharp corners. For now, I'm going to put it aside. I'm going to mark it as back waistband, back waistband. And I'm going to say cut 2 because it's going to be a 2-piece. Okay, so it looks like this. I'm going to leave it here. You can see that what's left of my dart, because I had a very short dart. If you remember my fitting of a trouser, my back darts are quite as short as my front darts. And so I have a little tiny, I'm going to say I have 1/8 of an inch left here. I'm going to just ignore it. If you have a longer dart, you see, I'm going to cross it. It doesn't exist because it's only 1/8 of an inch. I think you can maybe see better this way. I just ignore it because I have 1/8 of an inch. If you have more than that, let's say you have a 1/4, what you can do is you can shave it off the side seam. Whatever you have left at the top of this, if it's more than 1/8 of an inch, you can remove it from the side seam, okay, to make sure that the bottom of the waistband matches the top of the yoke. Okay, this is my yoke. I'm going to say that I need to mark grain line like this. This is my center back right there, and this is my side seam. Okay, now I'm ready to cut off the yoke. Okay, I'm cutting off the yoke from the body of the jean. Okay, so there's my yoke. And I'm going to say cut 2. This is jean yoke. Jean yoke. Cut 2. Okay, there it is. There's my jean yoke. I will take detailed photographs later. So I have a waistband that I know will match the yoke perfectly. I've measured everything is fine. And now what I have left is the rest of my jean. Of course it would have legs. So here what I would need to do is take a separate piece of paper and trace the back patch pocket. I'm not going to do this now. You will know how to do this. And add seam allowances to the seam where the yoke will be attached to the pants. I will put this aside and continue work on the front. Okay, on the front, I will also start by removing the excess at the top. Do you see that? Above, everything above the top red line I don't need because it's not present in my jean. I have a mid-rise jean, so I'm cutting this top off like this. I don't need it at all. And now I will do the same. I'm going to cut off the waistband. I'm cutting at the bottom red line where I marked the width or the height of my waistband. And just like I did for the back, I am going to cut. I have a dart, I have to close it. I am going to cut along, doesn't matter which one, I'm going to cut along one of the dart legs and I will tape it closed. I will close my dart. Okay, like this. So I have now front shaped waistband with my dart closed. You see I close it. I have the excess of paper here on the back. And I'm going to mark, this is center front. This is my side seam. And I will have to do the same. I have 1 inch seam allowance, sorry, half-inch seam allowance on the center front, half an inch seam allowance on the side seam. Of course, this is a waistband, the front of it, so it will have an overlap and underlap because I'm going to have a button and a buttonhole. So I'm going to say maybe 1 inch, 1.5 inch will be added to the center front, and I will need seam allowance at the top of the waistband and the bottom of the waistband. And when I tape the paper to add seam allowances, I'm going to blend and equalize my little sharp angles. So this is my front waistband. I'm going to put it aside, and now I need to cut away part of the slash pocket because this is a map. This is a map of my future slash pocket. I'm going to slide this under the front of the jean. Okay, like this. You can pin it or tape it in place. I'm just going to trace the green line. The green line is where the front will be cut off. That's going to be the opening where your hand is going to go in. Okay, so you can freehand. I'm not very good at freehanding, so I will use my French curve to trace it so that it exactly matches the map of my front pocket. Do you see? This is the green. I'm tracing off the green, and I will trace off to the side seam. Okay, this is my pocket pattern, or pocket map is behind it, and I'm following the green line of the opening. Okay, I traced it exactly, and now I'm going to cut this part off to create an opening of the slash pocket. Okay, so you can see that the front of the pant now looks like this. Okay, this is where the hand would go in, and of course before the front can be sewn to the waistband, we have to complete the side seam, and it's going to be completed with the back pocket pouch. Do you see how it's going to be? Like this. This is how it will go together. Okay, so what I will need to do next with this is I will have to create 3 separate patterns. This is my map for all 3 elements of my pocket. The red line shape will become my back pouch, and at least part of it needs to be cut out of the same fabric as the pants. You can create a little facing, or you can cut all of the back pouch in denim. The green line will be traced off as the front pouch. It will go behind this opening of a pant. And a blue, if you wish to add a coin or a key, it's called item pocket, you can add this element as well. And of course you can play with the design of it. If you find this is too wide, you can make it narrower. If you don't want to have it at all, just leave it out, it doesn't matter. Okay, so here I have something that actually good for you to see. What I have here is a 1/4 inch left. You see, I have my dart. Not all of my dart went away. And a 1/4 inch is kind of a lot to just ignore. And what I'm going to do, I will go to the map of my pouch, because remember, the side seam of my jean is completed with a back pouch when it goes together. So I don't have a side seam on the pant from here to here. Do you see that? But it is actually on my map of a pocket. So what I'm going to do is I will measure out a 1/4 inch here. And here it's so small, I'm just going to freehand it. I'm going to draw a little line. I have drawn a line that removed 1/2 inch, sorry, not 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. The same as what I have left of the dart on the front. This is the amount I'm going to shave off the side seam of the back pouch, and I will just cut it off like this. And now I got rid of this, and I can just cross it out, not to confuse myself that I forgot something later. Okay, so now you will create 3 pieces of pattern from this one. This one is taken care of. The dart doesn't exist anymore. I now need to add my little fly front piece. This is it, my little fly front. I'm lining it up with the top of my waist. Okay, and I'm just going to tape it, because now when you cut out your pattern now looks like this. I'm going to move it so you can see it better. Do you see that? The pattern now has this little piece attached. This plus this is 1 piece of fabric. It's going to cut out like this. I have this left over, which is the fly shield. It will be cut out of the same fabric, out of denim or whatever you're making your pants out of. It's going to be folded over and serged on the sides, and this piece, this, when you insert the zipper, it will go behind, and this will be sewn like this to protect your abdomen from touching the metal part of the zipper. Okay, this is it. This completes the styling of a classical element of a jeans. I want to show you how to add classical jean style and elements for a high-rise jean, which sits at the anatomical waist, and for an ultra-low-rise jean, which sits at a point which is quite a bit lower than the natural waist. So if you are designing a jean which is a high rise, you do not have to remove anything from the top. This is my original pattern for the jean, and so what you would do, you would go to the top of the back and the top of the front, and you would just measure down 1.5 inches everywhere to design the waistband for the high rise jean. And just like I did on a mid-rise jean, you would just measure down. I will show you how to do that. You would measure down 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches everywhere. I'm using a pink marker. Is the height of the waistband, because you want your jean to end right at the waist. So you would go like this, give yourself a 90-degree angle at center front and center back, and at side seams, and then use your French curve to connect all the lines. And so the pink part now is 1.5 inch everywhere, and it's down from the natural waist. I will go and do exactly the same on the front. So the height of the waistband is different everywhere, 1.5 inches. And so again, I will start by giving myself a 90-degree angle at the side seam and center front, and now complete this line with a French curve like this. And so what you would do, the styling will start by you removing the waistband from the jean, and from there you can start designing your back yoke, the back patch pocket, and the front slash pocket and the fly front, exactly the same as I showed you when we designed it on the mid-rise jean. When we are working on an ultra low rise pant, and I will use a blue marker, this is quite a bit of an angle. So the angle is measured. The deepest point of an angle is going to be at center front, and I'm measuring from the anatomical waist, from the natural waist. It is going to be measured at 3 inches below the anatomical waist. It's right here, okay? And when you get to the least deep part, it's actually going to be measured 2 inches below the anatomical waist. So I'm going to the very top of the pant, and it's 2 inches below. Why is it like that? Because if you put it at the same angle at 3 inches below, what will happen is when you sit down, the pant will be pulled down quite a bit more perhaps than you want. Of course, you can design your own angles, but the classical styling is like this. So here it is 3 inches down from the, this is going to be 3 inches down will be the top of your waistband. And here 2 inches down will be the top of your waistband. What about the side seams? How do we connect all this? So side seams, we are 2.5 inches below the natural waist. So I will measure 2 inches, 2.5 inches. Okay, and now you can use a French curve. I'm just going to use a straight line here. Okay, this is 2.5 inches down, and this is 2 inches down. I will go to the front, and at the front side seam, it's also going to be at 2.5 inches down, because whatever we did on the back, side seam has to be the same on the front side seam, because the side seams have to match. And do you see, so I have an angled line. So this is 3 inches down below the anatomical waist in the center front. This is 2.5 inches down, 2.5 inches down below the anatomical waist in the side seam, 2 inches in the center back below anatomical waist, and 2.5 inches down at side seam.